We are so honored that you're here with us for season 3.
We want to share, connect, and grow the paper flower community with you. Welcome to Paper Talk.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Paper Talk. We are coming off of a high after a fantastic Paper X Talk lecture on the topic of pricing. It was so fun to have the panelists there, not just paper florists, Quinn and I, but also we had our flower farmer, Jesslyn Pettigrew, and the florist designer, Erin Shackelford. But I think me coming off of that high, the most interesting thing about that lecture was that I think we all agree that running a business is a journey, and making those decisions about when to pivot in your business or when to decide to make a change or to grow or to add something, that's a very personal decision, and it's a journey. It's something that comes along. You know, when an opportunity comes along, you take it. Or when you're faced with having to make changes, taking that leap forward and having the confidence to do that. Those take time, and it's a very personal journey. So to actually give us some insight on this topic, we've invited Amy McGee, the founder and creative director of Botanical Brouhaha. And Amy has been a lot of things, actually. We were just talking about that. But you know her best as the voice behind the Botanical Brouhaha podcast. And she's made it her mission to stay connected to the floral industry and to support her community. And she's got some new things coming her way as well that we wanted to talk to her about. But because of her wealth of experience, we really wanted to pick her brain and kind of understand and give us some insight into, you know, those decisions that she made throughout her life. How did those come about? You know, what made her feel those changes were right at that time? And why now is she, you know, looking forward to this new endeavor that we're excited to share with you guys about. So Amy, thank you so much for joining us. We're thrilled to have you. How are you in Texas? I mean, I know we talked about this. Yeah. I'm sure it's such a different time in history. We all have we're all coming from, different areas, but it's nice to talk to someone who is so far away from Toronto and in a completely different state. But anyways, Amy, welcome.
Yes, welcome, Amy.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be on here after you were on our podcast. So thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, no, we're excited to have you here. I think both of us have followed your blog and your Instagram for some time now, seeking inspiration, and your podcast as well, seeking inspiration. You have such a great eye for great floral work. And
so beautiful.
Yeah, so beautiful. Your website itself is all you. After I met you, I was like, oh, that's why. Yeah. And so learning about the fact that you didn't start as a podcaster, like most of us, or a blogger, was really interesting as well, because whenever somebody tells me that, I think, how did that come about? Obviously, you don't grow up thinking you'll be a podcaster or a blogger. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Amy. What's your background?
Well, I started in the flower business about 20 years ago, but before that, I started school and I was going to be a dental hygienist. And when I graduated, my husband and I bought our very first house, and I was just starting my career in dental hygiene. And we bought a house that was about 40 years old, and the couple that had lived in it had been extensive gardeners, and they died and left it. They had no children, so it was kind of in this trust, and it was really overgrown, the yard was, and we were intrigued by this whole situation because we moved into this house and it had a long history and a story, and we got to really know what the people had been like that had lived there. And we talked to a niece who had some images of what the gardens had looked like, kind of when they had first built the house. And so we kind of got interested in uncovering that garden. And that house was in town. It sat on about an acre, and it had one of the very first sprinkler systems ever installed. And so it was kind of all metal pipes, and you had to go out with a big, T tool and, move it around and get it to come on. And it was all new, and we had not had a house or a yard, and I really hadn't been into gardening. And so over the next couple of years, we just really got interested and started learning the plants, and every season something new would pop up, and we uncovered those old beds. So that's kind of where I started, is just this sort of intrigue with gardening. And then I started kind of growing flowers and put in a couple of rows of cut flowers. And, this is like my whole story. Everything just leads to something else. It's never what I intended. So eventually
Can I ask you back then, was cut flower gardens popular?
I didn't really know anyone much who was doing that, but it may have just been that I wasn't in the industry. I really wasn't paying attention. I do remember I was reading Martha Stewart magazine, Martha Stewart Living, Martha Stewart Weddings, because I just loved her aesthetic and what she did.
For sure.
Yeah. So that was more the bent for me, was kind of growing things and cooking things and decorating the house and, whatever. So, but that kind of that started the ball rolling. And I was a dental hygienist, so I was working. That's where I made my living.
Yeah.
And I just started growing some flowers. I ended up selling them to a little farm stand around the corner. And then a bed and breakfast in town found out about me and asked if I would bring some of my cut flowers to their bed and breakfast to put in their cabins. And then once I did that, they asked if I would actually design them into an arrangement instead of just dropping off the blooms. So that's where the design started. I tried to read and figure out what I was doing with design. And then, people saw the flowers and then the ball started rolling. Then people asked for flowers for anniversaries and birthdays. And eventually that led to weddings. In the end, I ended up moving from cut flowers to design. And I built a studio onto my house. And at that point, I had 2 children. They were young. I worked out of the house and had some young women who worked with me, some college students. And that was a span of probably 10 years that it just kind of one thing led to another to another. And I was always working as a dental hygienist the whole time, even when I was doing weddings.
So you were really busy.
And I was a mom. Yeah. And then at that point, it kind of came to a halt because I was doing weddings on the weekends, working during the week, part-time as a hygienist, and I was a mom. And I just, wasn't seeing my kids on the weekends because that's when the events are. And so I decided to close that business after I'd been doing it about 8 years. And I took a year off to just be a mom and be a hygienist. But I missed the people in the industry. I missed the relationships, like the relationships I had with brides and grooms and their parents, and it was just my peers. I just missed that. So I actually started Botanical Brouhaha, the blog, after I'd been out for about a year. And it was just simply a way to get my hand back into it. And I was thinking, this is great because it's free. Because writing a blog, I just created this blog and there was no cost to it. And
only your time.
No one expected anything out of me.
Yeah.
And nobody expected anything. I hadn't promised anything. So but it grew. So then we started that ball rolling. And, I've been writing that blog 11 years. And we started the podcast a couple of years ago. And, eventually I did retire from dental hygiene. And I started working in the industry for another designer.
I feel like you were prepared every step of the way, right? I mean, those opportunities came and you took them.
You recognized them and you took them.
Yeah, I think so. I think with the exception of starting the floral design business when I was doing weddings and events, my husband and I had long conversations around that because we had young children at the time. And the timing of it, I felt like, I'm just getting older and older and older and I have to do it right now. It's just one of those things that's like a passion, like you just can't stop thinking about it. And we had a lot of discussions because, he was like, well, when you're, a little older and the kids are a little older, maybe that might be the time. And I was like, no, we're going to do it right now. And so we did. And then you see what happened. Then I closed it because I wasn't with the kids enough, and that was my decision. So I guess you could say he was right, except that gave me a lot of years, of learning and making relationships. So it paved the way for what I do now. And I don't know that what I'm doing now would be quite the same if I hadn't had those years.
For sure.
So I may have jumped the gun on that one, but I'm kind of glad I did, is what I'm saying.
Well, it is a tough decision to make when you have young children. but at the same time, I feel like, I don't know. I think that if the opportunity comes, you don't know if it'll come later on, and it might not be the right time then either. So I don't think there really is I don't think you're ever 100% prepared. It's whether or not you right now have, the skills, and whether or not right now in your life, it's the right decision, and I think, I don't know. Like you said, things work out. At some point, you look back and you're like, oh, that's why I did that. That's why I went through that, because now I have the skills and the experience to do this.
I think that's a very good example.
Yeah, I think I had an uncle who, when I told him about this kind of crazy dream, and I thought he's very practical, and I thought he would say, well, here are all the things you should consider. Get all your ducks in a row. And actually what he said to me was, I started a new career in my 40s. And he said, I could not wait for the day to break every day. I laid in bed waiting for daylight so I could get out. He became a home builder. And he said, I just couldn't wait till daylight so I could get up and go work. And he said, what is the worst thing that can happen? You do this and you fail, then just don't do it anymore. But
so true.
There's no harm in trying. Yeah, so that really impacted me, and I've always thought about that. Yeah, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? It doesn't work out, or you fail, then you learn something and do something different.
So true.
It's all right.
The worst is actually not trying and then looking back and saying, oh, I should have, because of what could have, right?
Yeah. FOMO. It's the real thing.
FOMO. New word for it. Yes, it's FOMO. So true. Yeah, because we get a lot of our peers. I call them peers, really. I mean, some of them do take our courses and they are in a way our students, but really our peers. Mm-hmm. And we personally also struggle with this too. With the Paper Florist Collective, we're also moving in a new direction as well, in a way, with our new YouTube channel and kind of expanding on some things. But a lot of our peers wonder, when do you know it's time, for example, to increase your price, or when to expand on an offering? And the bottom line, in my opinion, is there's no right answer. It's always very personal to that business or to that career. But at the same time, Amy, you've gone through so many changes. Was there a sense, was it a gut feeling, or was it like a sense that, oh, this is the time, this is the right time to do that, to do what I've planned, or, oh, I didn't plan it, but we need to make that change. We have to leap forward. We can't look back. Do you have any advice on that? In terms of your personal experience of knowing when, oh, that's the right moment.
I'm a very, I'm going to say emotional, but I'm a very feeling person. And I think I really go a lot with my gut, whatever it is that I just can't shake a feeling. And also, I really respect the people around me, which is why it's important to surround yourself with people who are positive, and people who want the best for you. And so I also listen to the people around me, as well as, of course, our audience, the people who read the blog or listen to the podcast. I listen to what they say. But I think for me, I felt that there was such a connection for me with nature when I started growing those flowers and just kind of getting into this industry. That's what was leading me, was that connection to nature. And then it kind of grew into this connection with other people, because, you all know, flower people, gardeners, farmers, they're some of the kindest people in the world.
Mm-hmm. Generous,
and so
too.
Helpful and inspiring. Generous, yes. So I think, that was kind of the way I entered. Now, when I started the flower business, that felt like, doing the weddings, that was like inside of me. And I just felt like I just want to do this so badly. I just want to try this so badly. That led me there. When we started the podcast, that was because my son told me, I think you should do this because you have all these stories that you tell us, like our family at dinner, about these amazing people. I think you should share those stories. And so I was resistant to that because I'm not technical. I'm very shy, really. I don't like to be in front of people or talk in front of people usually. But I trusted him. And I thought, if he's saying this, then I'm going to take it really seriously. And that's how we really started the podcast. I found, a co-host that felt the same, that, she really wanted to start it also, Maria Maxit, and we started it together. And it was I was scared to death. I had no experience. I was really afraid to talk. And those first episodes, you probably know with your podcast, if you go back and listen
yes.
to the first episodes, sometimes I'm like, wow, maybe we could take those down. but the guests were great, so we leave them up, But I think that's, also when I started the blog, that was because some of the young women who were college students and young working women at the time who were working with me when I had the flower business doing weddings, they mentioned to me, you should start a blog. And I didn't even know what a blog was. So I just kind of put it on the shelf and didn't think about it for a whole year until I had this yearning to get back into the business somehow and talk to people. And I remembered that. And so they're the ones who encouraged me to do that. So I think surrounding myself with, honestly, younger people is the key, because they have a lot of awesome ideas. They're not afraid, and they're very, encouraging.
Yes, absolutely right.
Yeah. So I guess to answer your question, there are a lot of things that push me just a little bit further and push me to go ahead and take the next step. But mainly it's just listening to that intuition. It just feels right. Feels like the time.
I guess it's always, it's taking that first step, I think, like you said, is the most difficult, right? Because you don't know what you're going into. But I suppose, like you said, it applies to pricing, offerings, collaborations. What is the worst that could happen? You fail, but you always have your life. You always have your career. You always have something still that you can come back and be like, okay, let's start again. Let's see if there's another direction that we can take. We were just talking about COVID, how COVID really just impacted everyone's business in one way or the other, and having to literally change the plans that you may have made 12 months ago. And now you need to do something completely different. So actually tell us a little bit about this new website that you're going to be releasing shortly, because there's a whole story it comes with a whole story, and you were just telling us about that.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I began there were some needs in my community that I began to see, and I wanted to do something. And so my husband and I, we met some needs on our own. But eventually, I just realized this is not something, it's too big for me by myself. I can't meet these needs. And it grew into something much more. It was, there were also people in our community who I felt were not getting equal opportunity to what I had been given. And so it kind of grew into this thing where I felt like not only do I want to meet a need if I see it, and I can, but I also would love to create some opportunities for some people in our community that I really care about. And I was talking to Holly Chappell and Hitomi Gilliam and about this, and it was really weighing on me, what can I do? And they kind of said, you know what, we would come to Texas and we would teach for you if you wanted to do a workshop. And so we had this discussion, and we decided to do that, to create this workshop. And they came to my town, and at their own expense, really. They didn't charge me for their time. And they taught a class, and we sold tickets, and people came from all over to study under them. And the proceeds from that workshop went back to meet needs and create opportunities in my community. And so this whole initiative was kind of born out of that initial experience. The next year, we did a workshop in the spring, and we did one in the fall, and we had other designers come in, and we did things like we created a short film in collaboration with Phil John Perry from England. He came over from Manchester, and we kind of had this big opening night premiere at our downtown theater.
Oh, wow.
A premiere of a movie that we had made about the people in our community. And a lot of designers came and helped us when we were shooting the film. They came and designed flowers for different people to wear in the film. So there were just lots of people who were involved in the project. And every time we did one of these events, then we took the proceeds and we would give back to our community. And we were able to meet, some needs like rent assistance. We bought a vehicle for someone. We did some car repairs. We've paid for, dental and medical bills here and there for people who needed a little assistance. But we also did things like have people help us with the workshop and bring in vendors who could do hair and makeup or, other jobs within our workshop series to support the people in our community. So when COVID hit in the spring, we can no longer have these in-person workshops. And so then that was a challenge for me because I had to figure out how can we continue this work that we've begun if we can't get together in person, and I know some people are doing things virtually, but it just is not the same feel because I was having everyone come to our town because that's where the money is going and staying. It's making an impact here. Right. So it didn't feel like that was, a great option for me. So I've spent the better part of this year quarantined, honestly, working hard, trying to figure out what is the next step and how do we go forward. So that's where the new endeavor comes in. And do you want me to speak about
that? Give us the website name and everything.
Okay. So it is going to be called Bloom Trust Company, but it'll be Bloom Trust Co. for short. It'll launch the middle of November. So we're still building the site right now, and I'm super excited about it because it is going to be kind of a culmination of everything I've been doing with my career, which is mainly serving people in the flower industry, serving my peers, serving people who are trying to get into this industry by connecting them with people they should know who can help them or connecting them with services that they're looking for, products, that would make their job easier, and classes, just anything that, people write us all the time and ask, if I want to learn how to do whatever the thing is, maybe it's, create a flower crown. I don't know how to do that. Do you have some suggestions? And then we go back and say, or I go back and say, here's some people that do a really good job. And I would recommend that you check into this. So this is what the site will be. It's going to be kind of a more formal way of me getting this information out rather than just answering emails all day long and DMs, right? Yeah. So you will be able to log into the site, and then you will be able to search for what you're looking for, and we'll just have all the resources that I would recommend. And that's kind of a key point. It's not really meant to be a site that is the biggest site and it includes everything in the world. That's not what it's about. It's really about, these are people that I know, and these are products that I trust. These are people that I trust. I have phone calls with these people. I'm recommending this to you, and you can go in and find it. And of course, for me, this is just a way for me to continue serving and kind of helping people who are wanting to get into the industry or to grow their business to do so in a way that they can flower. We always say flowering with purpose, because if you don't have a purpose, pretty flowers for the sake of pretty flowers is awesome. But if you have a reason to do it, if you're impacting someone with your art, that makes it all the better. So we will be able now with this site, it'll be a membership site. So you'll have to pay a little bit to be in and have access to all these resources. But a portion of all of those membership fees will go back to this initiative. And so you'll be actually helping us support other people by creating opportunities, meeting needs with a portion of your membership fee. So we're kind of, our tagline is you're going to be able to log in, find what you need, and then go out and flower with purpose.
I hope flowering with a purpose is your tagline, because it just encompasses everything about this website and the Bloom Trust Co. I think that is just amazing and beautiful. What a lovely way to raise money for your community and to educate all these floral designers and people that want to know more about flowers.
Well, I hope so. That's my intention.
I think you're going to accomplish that.
It's so interesting. There are we're rebuilding our website as well, and so I've been looking into other associations, companies, organizations, businesses that also kind of work to support their community to see what their story is. And it's so interesting because almost I think every website that I've looked at and every organization I've looked at, they just want to give back. They've gone through so much and they've learned so much, and they just want to give back to the community, their community, whether it's their industry or their local community or their peers. And it's so timely too, I think, with COVID, that online communities are building and you're able to reach so many people, not just in your town now, not just people who can come to your workshops, Texas or Toronto or Seattle, but across the world, and connecting people to each other. I think that's such what can I say? I mean, it's such a great opportunity for people who cannot, let's say, either have the time or can't afford to come to your local workshops, to be able to connect with people like Holly, like Hitomi, like yourself, and get those resources that they might need to kind of, launch the business or trigger them to decide to take that leap forward. So I think it's when I was doing my research, yours was one of them. That's why I know your website so well. It's beautiful. But
yes,
it also
is.
communicates so well the reason why you're doing it. And I think it's something that everyone can connect with. And I think that's why also on the business end, you've been so successful. First, you're so warm, and you are also so honest and genuine about your purpose and your objective and the mission of Botanical Brouhaha, but also because there really is a true intention to help people. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but I suppose I could say that we relate because I'm doing all the back end of our new website. And I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. It's not just, okay, this is my mission statement.
Thought and process.
Yeah, you have to execute, right? Like even this new endeavor that you're going into, Bloom Trusco, like there's so much thought that goes into it but it's such a natural progression. It's not like it's forced. To me, hearing you introduce this is like, oh yeah, of course. Why not sooner?
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
It totally makes sense. But I mean, we're younger as well. Well, I'm younger. But my husband's the one, though. Even though I'm younger, my husband's the one who keeps on telling us, you need to do a podcast, or you need to do this, you need to do that. So anyways, talking about your support group, listening to those sometimes, it does help a little bit.
Yes, it does. So Amy, how do people find more about Bloom Trusco? Where you have the website will be up, your Instagram will be up. Tell us those handles, the website, everything.
We'll be up and running in the middle of November, and we'll have a website. It'll be bloomtrustco.com. And we'll have probably a placeholder up until it actually goes live, if anybody wants to check that out. And then we'll also have an Instagram account, which is at Bloom Trust Co. And we'll start that around the beginning of November. So you should be able to find information about the site there as well.
Wonderful. We'll have the links down in the show notes for everyone if they just want to find it and click on it.
Okay.
That's perfect. On a personal note, do you post all of your social media posts? Because you're going to have another one too. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I do. And, I guess that's one of the things that, about me is that I've really kind of realized during these months of COVID, being home and really thinking about how I run things and whatever, I've just realized I take classes, I read a lot, I listen to podcasts, and I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do all the things and do them the way that everyone else does them. There's kind of a right way to market your thing. There's a right way to write your stuff. There's a right way. And I can listen to all of it. I know what it's supposed to do. And at the end of the day, I still don't want to do it. I still want to do it my way. And so I've always felt like that makes me not as successful as other people, in the eyes of other people in the industry, maybe because I'm not doing it like everyone else. And when you ask about Instagram, that's one of the things. I know I should be scheduling it out and all of that, but I don't like to, because for me, when I have something to say, I post it.
Yeah.
And if I don't have anything to say, I don't post it. And so, and I don't,
the exact same way as you.
And I don't look at the algorithm. I don't look at what time my followers are on and all of that stuff. because I don't want it to run my life. And so if I have something to say, it's genuine, and I'm just going to say it when I want to say it around my life, and so I guess, during this time, I kind of realized, why can't that just be our superpower, really? Why can't that be how we're all unique, that we run our business in alignment with our personality and with our life, with our family, whatever, our values, and let the rest of that go. So as we launch this new thing, that's so funny, Jesse, you say you're gonna have another Instagram account. Trust me, I know.
For me, it's oh my God, something else.
To do. We know all the back work it takes.
So I've had an Instagram account for this initiative that we've done called the Daylily Initiative, and I'll probably let that one go because we're going to move all of that onto the new platform. So I'll probably let a few things go, and then we'll just kind of see what happens. Interestingly enough, I actually have talked to someone about coming on board to help me run that social media platform for Bloom Trust Co. And she feels the exact same way that I do about it, So, and she was one of the first designers who ever worked for me.
That's wonderful.
And she worked for me when she was in college. So it's been, so now she has 3 children. She's older, and she's still young compared to me, but she feels the same way. And so, for me, I think I'm just moving my business into this, I only want to surround myself with people that I really, really, really love, and that I feel, a bond, a kinship with, and that are encouraging and kind of push me in the best ways. That's what I want to do. I want to surround myself with those people and run these business, this business or Botanical Brouhaha or the podcast, whatever it is. I just want to run it in a way that is in alignment with who I really am. And who I really am is basically a shy person. That's part of why Bloom Trust Co. is going to be really interesting for me. It's because when I started, I was too shy to ask for the answers. I didn't know who to ask. I didn't have anyone to support me. I didn't know who to ask about pricing or sourcing or anything. And I was too shy to ask. And the one time I did ask, I kind of got a negative response, go find that out on your own and then come back to me when you have more experience. So that kind of shut me down. That's part of why all these years I've wanted to serve other people by helping them find the answers they need. So, in my mind, Bloom Trust Co. is going to be kind of a way that if you are the new person, the shy person, you're a little hesitant to get out and ask for what you need, you can come in here and you can find it. And we're going to help you find it. And you won't have to be embarrassed or, afraid, So
I love that. That is so wonderful. I think that's one of our passion too, Jesse and I, is we're all about educating our community. I mean, we see all these questions, and I know there's so many more people that have these exact same questions, but they don't have the courage, or they're too shy, or they've been burnt before and they're afraid to put themselves out. And that's one thing that Jesse and I do is we try to say, hey, here's your information. And it's just been really wonderful to meet all these different students and our peers and bring everybody up to this amazing level of sharing knowledge. One thing that we're working on is helping our industry, because it's so brand new, about pricing, because a lot of people come in so many different levels and so much different experience. But the thing is, nobody knows each other pricing. And I think one of the open thing, a very good example is when you go to a grocery store and you see all the same items, same crackers, bag of chips, all the prices are laid right there, and you know where everything's laid. And I feel like we could do that with our paper industry. And it's so important to be helping our industry grow in a better way than just, you have to do so much research to find things out. We're really, both Jesse and I are open books about information. And the only thing we ask us the questions and we can help you better.
Or at least share what we know, share our knowledge, or point you in the direction of someone who does know.
Exactly. And I love that Bloom Trust Co. could be another resource for our industry. It's amazing because I feel like the floral industry, the paper floral industry ourselves, you're a much older industry, but we are growing and our curve is going so much higher because we're able to learn from your industry and apply it to ours, which is amazing.
You guys definitely have a ton of resources, and we will be the first ones to check out Bloom Trust Co. For sure.
Well, I really do hope that it's funny. I was just having this conversation with a designer this week because you all were so gracious to be on our podcast. And, we talked a lot about how we could help one another, our two industries, how we could come together and help one another. And we know that, we've already had some designers who have incorporated paper flowers into their fresh flower designs. And there are just so many different ways to collaborate. But this year, especially since we've had the pandemic and we realized sometimes, we can't always rely on our sources for the flowers that we have promised our wedding couples. So it's important for us to have as many resources as we can and have those relationships in place before we actually need them. So I really appreciate what you all are doing, and I definitely hope that paper florists will come into Bloom Trust Co., find what they need. We'll also have a lot of there will be some free things in there, some free content that you can download or watch. There will be some, courses that you'll have to go and buy. We're just referring you to the people that we feel like are really, really good at what they do. But I think that definitely it will be a helpful place for anyone who's interested in paper flowers or fresh flowers or dried for that matter. We have so many mediums now. Yeah. And I guess that's one of the silver linings of COVID, if we have to pick one, is I feel like we have opened up the floodgate in our industry to be able to really appreciate one another and learn how to collaborate. And I think it's going to change how we do business in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I love it so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Amy, for dropping by and chatting with us. It's always a joy to speak to you because you have such insightful things to share with us all the time. And we're so excited for this new endeavor that you're undertaking. It's much needed in our industry, I think. We always get questions about how to arrange, how do you deal with mechanics? And, even though we refer our peers to, florists that have inspired us, having a place where they can go and take a look themselves, I think will be really, really helpful moving forward. And like you said, in the future with collaborations, I think just having those resources will be invaluable. So hopefully we'll talk to you again on a later date, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about Bloom Trust Co. or any kind of workshop series you'll be having in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
If you're looking for a way to support us, please hit subscribe and write us a review. We would appreciate it so much.